What are you doing?
Evening the odds.
When the mother or the thief stops to think twice, that is fear. That is what I am.
Welcome to the madhouse, Batman! I set a trap and you sprang it gloriously!
There is no savior. No more hope. No more Batman.
I am vengeance.
I am the Knight. I am Batman.
Welcome back to the second episode of our four-part series, Arkham Revisited. We are officially on the Arkham Asylum side of things. So we are in the first game of the series, chronologically the second game, because of course we went through Arkham Origins a few weeks ago and talked about that game. So let's now talk about Arkham Asylum. And this is a game that, unlike Arkham Origins, because again, Arkham Origins, this was only my second playthrough of it doing this series. This is my third playthrough of Arkham Asylum, and I think this will also be my third playthrough of Arkham City. So Arkham Asylum and Arkham City are the games that I've played the most of the Arkham games. So when I booted up Arkham Asylum, there was just an instant rush of nostalgia and feeling of when this first came out. And when this game first came out, I'll never forget it because it was one of the first books I read when I had a Game Informer subscription, because that was back in the day when if you went to GameStop and you sold in some games, you'd get store credit and things like that. You could also get essentially a subscription to Game Informer, which I always remember my dad would give me credit or give me crap about it, because he'd also say, why do you have that subscription? And da-da-da. And I was like, hey, first of all, I'm a teenager. I have a job. I'm a high schooler, so I'm going to spend all my money on video games. That's pretty much what I did. So when I had that Game Informer subscription, I always told my dad, hey, it was worth it, because I saw a cover story talking about this game, talking about Arkham Asylum. And so I had already had a leg up on this coming into playing it. So I had already had that hype factor built into this. And let me tell you, this game completely exceeded the hype when I was a kid. And I'll tell you now, at a game that was made in 2009, it still has that little bit of a game that's over 10 years old, still has that strike of inspiration in me to talk about it. And it's still one of my favorite games, and definitely one of my favorite Batman games of all time. And it's funny, in the research for this, I've been looking at other video games, and I didn't think about how spoiled we were when this quadrilogy stepped on the screen, because it is such an amazing experience to play this game, and you see so much heart and soul put into it from Rocksteady, because that they, granted, they didn't have high expectations on one hand, because Batman games have been so shitty throughout the years, but they also had that expectation that they had to do right by the Batman, and they had to do right by this character, and I think that shines through in this game. And more, I would say more than most. I think they keep that theme of Batman throughout, but this story is just so intimate that they just really had to nail Batman's relationship, not only with the Joker, but all of the other villains you run into with Arkham Asylum. So let's get in on the background of Arkham Asylum. So development began at Rocksteady Studios in May 2000. Development began at Rocksteady Studios in May 2007 with a 40-person team that was expanded to 60 people by the project's conclusion after approximately 21 months. Among other things, the game design was inspired by Batman penned works of Neil Adams and Frank Miller and Grant Morrison's Arkham Asylum, a Serious House on Serious Earth graphic novel. So again, if you're going to pull inspiration for Batman and really build your whole trilogy of Batman stories, starting with Neil Adams and Frank Miller and Grant Morrison, is not a bad place to start with those kind of writers. So it was built on the Unreal Engine 3, and Arkham Asylum's production underwent several variations, refining both gameplay, such as the combat system, and the central story, resulting in the removal of plot elements and some of other Batman main enemies who did not fit the tone of the rest of the game. So, 2 notes about that. One, I read that the combat system was originally going to be a rhythm-based game. So everything you did combat-wise was based on a rhythm, and I think it's a cool approach to combat, but the reason Rocksteady cut it is they felt it'd be too niche. I think, yeah, that would kind of take me out of it a little bit to think that every part of my combat is rhythm-based. But it also can make sense if you've played these games. You understand there is some sort of dance that you're doing with your enemies. There is a timing aspect to it when you counter and things like that. And it is also funny going back to play these games and just to see once again how impactful this combat system that was started in this first game, how much it has been duplicated and worked upon and changed, and how inspirational it has been to video games. And it's always fun when you can see a trend in modern video games and always trace it back to this one jumping off point. And of course that was there. And then in terms of the villains aspect of this, there's a ton of villains that got left on the cutting room floor that we do see later. We see in Arkham City, we see in Arkham Knight, which I find very interesting. And especially considering some of the characters that don't get featured in this game do have cells in Arkham Asylum that are references to them to be like, hey, well, they're not in this game, but they might show up in the other stuff. So, look out for it. Rocksteady began developing ideas for a sequel months before Arkham Asylum's completion, hiding hints to the sequel within the game. And to develop the game's overall aesthetic, the main aim was to create designs that would combine comic book style with realism. And I think that is one of the main, and we'll really dive into it here in a bit when we get into the plot. But I do absolutely agree that they nailed the idea of blending Batman the Animated Series, blending the comic books, blending the Nolan movies that had Dark Knight had just came out around this time as this game was being developed. There was Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. So you can see those heavy inspirations on them. And that's what I love about the character of Batman is you can do that. You can pull from all these other writers and all these other stories and still make your own original storyline of Batman, but also pay homage to what came before you and adding to it. It's really cool. The environmental architecture and characters had to be extravagant enough to represent the Batman universe, but needed to be realistic texture and detail. The second aim was to recreate the dark, gothic imagery inherent to the Batman universe, especially Arkham Asylum, so that the structure would feel as insane as those whom it houses. The asylum, also considered an ideal location, it can be many of Batman's foes. So yeah, again, they wanted to incorporate as many Batman villains as they could in one game, and Arkham Asylum just made the most sense. And again, honestly, as a narrative, I think Arkham Asylum has the most addicting structured narrative because you are doing this Metroidvania style game where you're stuck to the island, which, as I'm starting to play through Arkham City now, it is nice to see that this is the one game of the 4 that has that one location and sticks to it. It doesn't have that open world aspect, doesn't have side missions, doesn't have really anything else other than that main story. So yes, it's the shortest of the 4, but it also is, like I said, the most addicting because there's always that, once you start getting Riddler trophies and start doing riddles and doing all these little things, while yes, there's no side mission, there's a lot more exploration to this game, and I think that's also what makes it so unique. Batman's design was heavily influenced by the work of comic book artist Jim Lee, who drew Batman as a strong, muscular character who believably take part in the extreme combat. His black and dark gray costume was based on modern versions and has military influences and an industrial look. Approximately 13 concept designs were produced before the final appearance took form. And I will say, I've always loved the Arkham suits. I think that the Arkham design is so cool because it kind of sticks to that what they were going for, of that gothic look and that gothic vision of Batman with the longer pointy ears, the big cape. And I also love that they introduced in this game the deterioration of your suit as the night goes on. It starts with Arkham Asylum. It continues all the way through the rest of the games. And I do like that it looks like narratively, and I don't think this has been confirmed, but this is just a lot of theories that people that have played the game have thought about, is his suit changes over time, where his origins is a little bit more armored, which I love because you can see the scratches from knives and swords all over his cowl and his chest and things like that. And he gets less padded in Arkham Asylum and Arkham City, and I think that's more of him being more confident in his abilities and not needing as much protection. He's a lot of sleeker look because he trenches how strong and fast he is as a ninja, as doing those Predator missions. He is much more adept than he was. And then in Arkham Knight, the justification for that suit is, of course, well, we'll talk about that when we get to Arkham Knight. Let's focus on the plot of Arkham Asylum. So the game opens with Batman speeding the Batmobile towards Arkham Asylum with Joker in tow. Once inside of the asylum, Batman doesn't feel right and follows Joker into Arkham. This will set up the game, which is a great use of atmosphere and tone to get you settled in. And I remember playing this part so vividly, is immediately where it kicked in the nostalgia. I thought it would be when I started gameplay, and this is kind of a start to gameplay, but this is really just an extended opening credits sequence where you're just walking the Joker. And this was the moment I remember, because again, you got to think back to me in 2008. I'm a freshman in high school. I'm reading about this Batman game, and I remember it's supposed to come out in June, which is a theme of all these games. They all get delayed, which is fine because they turn out to be great games. So go ahead, delay them. Take your time. But it would have been this summer before my sophomore year of high school. So it was going to come out in June 2009, and then it got pushed a few more months to August. And then I remember, because this was late August, I think it was August. You'd think I'd have that pulled up for the research, but I didn't. But I think it was August 25th, 2009. It was right before football two-a-days. It was right before school was starting, and I just remember staying up way later than I should have, because I had football practice that week. And there was also a year where the start of school got delayed because of remodels and the worry of there was like a asbestos leak or whatever. The point is, this was right before school started. Excuse me, I just lost my voice. Oh, it's high school memories. This was right before my sophomore year of high school, so I was still getting ready to do this, and I remember staying up till like 1 a.m., 2 a.m. playing this game, playing levels, and just being blown away that you could make a Batman game this damn good. Like, I would, even then, when I was 15 years old, 14, 15 years old, just being like, wow, this is not at all what I anticipated of what an amazing Batman game can be. And it was just so amazing. And just that walking sequence really brought back those memories of being like, oh my, what is this thing? Oh my God, this is crazy. Just having that. And just the little quips that Joker throws at you and the little things of like, okay, this is really starting to build to this moment. So eventually, yes, we get through the situation where Joker gets split away from Batman. He's saying he doesn't like it. Joker beats up the two guards. And then we know the gates get opened. Joker gets out. And he lays down this clip to tell you it's on.
Welcome to the madhouse, Batman! I set a trap, and you sprang it gloriously! Now let's get this party started.
So yeah, great way to start a game. It sets up the tone because we had the long, slow walk. We even saw Killer Croc show up being like, I've had your scent, Batman. It's scary looking Killer Croc. We get to see all the inmates, and it really does set the tone. And then, of course, that great situation happens. So then Joker also threatens to detonate bombs hidden around Arkham City if anyone tries to enter Arkham, forcing Batman to work alone and stay on Arkham Island. And Batman has to... so he gets the game started So then you're going to chase after Joker as you would, and then on the way there, Batman has to halt the pursuit of the Joker to handle a hostage situation with Victor Zsasz. And then that kind of sets up how to do different attacks and how to be a little bit more stealthy in your approach and not be so brute force, because after Joker springs the madhouse, then we get the combat tutorial. We fight the big group of dudes. We get to kind of get the understanding, the pretty base level understanding of the free flow combat. And then we go and deal with Victor Zsasz and get that taken care of. And that shows like how you can take down an enemy without being seen and do like silent takedowns and being smart about your environment. And there you go. So after defeating Zsasz, Batman is greeted by Harley Quinn via the hijacked Asylum monitors, taunting him and showing off Warden Sharp, her new hostage. Batman has left the patient pacification chamber through the ventilation system and follows Joker's trail of spray-painted smiles and arrows to confront the villain in the secure treatment transfer area. So again, you start this game and you're immediately hooked into the story. So now you know, and again, I already knew this because this was talked about in the Game Informer cover story, so I already had that backstory. But just playing that game by yourself, jumping in, it automatically sets a tone. And then once Joker breaks free, that gets you that sense of urgency of like, okay, I gotta go take this asshole out. And then we have the game doing what it does, where you have that main driving focus, but then you get sidetracked. You have to go do this thing, and then but now that you got that taken care of, now you got to go back to the Joker. And again, and I said this with Arkham Origins, I'll probably say this with Arkham City and Night when we have more of the side missions. It kind of sucks being Batman. Everybody's got to bitch to you for all their problems, and you get sidetracked. So we meet Joker in the secure test area. Secure treatment transfer area. So Joker opens up a large patient transfer cell and releases a large Titan thug on Batman after he taunts him, because Batman jumps in, immediately throws a batarang, misses, and then there's a whole confrontation, and then it's the classic Joker being like, well, you're not going to fight me yet. I'm going to unleash this beast at you. And you're wondering what I mean by Titan thug. We'll get there later on in the story. So after a brief fight with the Titan thug, he dies of a heart attack and brain aneurysm, much to the Joker's annoyance. So yeah, you'll get to a certain point where you knock down his health, which I have some complaints about this movie, or this game. As great as this game is, there are some serious complaints with me, and it always goes back to, sorry, I'm really popping my piece today. It always goes back to the Titan fights. The Titan thugs they're gimmicky, and there's a lot of gimmicky fights in this game. I think that's probably my biggest critique of the Arkham series, is sometimes it can get very gimmicky in your fights. Now, it's a little bit different when you're in a room full of thugs and you're fighting, and then there's a blade thug that comes in, so you have to dodge differently than you would, or you have to do a stun move and do a beat down and then fight some other guy. Like, I welcome that in combat, but when you do have a whole setup for a boss and it's just this gimmicky element and it's the same every time, it's fight around, see the Titan guy, once he starts to charge, quick fire a batarang at him, that hits him, and then it kind of slows a little bit so you can get out of the way when he's rampaging towards the wall, hits the wall, you beat him up a few times, rinse, repeat, and then eventually you can eventually ride the thugs. That's later on in the story, but it's pretty much rinse, cycle, repeat. It's all the same stuff. So this guy, after the quick fight, the Titan thug, as we mentioned, has a heart attack, brain aneurysm, and then so the Joker's like, oh, all right, screw it, I'm feeling frisky. Here's one free shot, goading Batman to knock him off his perch and into a lethal fall, ending the madness. Batman draws a batarang as if he's going to do it, but hesitates, still unwilling to kill his enemy. The Joker laughs and dubs him as, quote, too predictable. As the Joker escapes via the patient transfer system, he announced that he was organizing a party with the villains all over Arkham. And while Batman tried to get to the Joker transfer unit, while Batman tries to get the transfer unit working in to get the Joker, he appears in a monitor and shows Batman an image of Arkham guard Frank Bowles knocking out Gordon and taking him hostage, ready to kill him should Batman follow him. So then that sets you down the main path of, okay, now we have to go we got to go rescue Gordon, because, I mean, he is the commissioner of police, and we've got to bring him back, of course. So Batman attempts to track down and rescue Gordon, and by using detective mode, he could detect the alcohol traces from Bowles' bourbon flask that was left in the air. And this is the first time we're using detective mode. We don't really use it in the Zaz confrontation, and pretty much everything after that is you do the Titan sequence, but now it sets up using the detective mode, which you will use many times throughout this game, not just in the stealth missions, but also to find locations and track people, which is something that is carried throughout the series, and it's really cool to see the infancy of it and to see the modest beginnings of that, which eventually is going to be happening with the crime scene reconstruction in Arkham City, and then elaborated on in Arkham Origins, and even elaborated further in Arkham Knight. And it's nice to see it kind of developed here. And again, brings back memories of when I first played it, being like, oh my gosh, you can trace the alcohol in the air. Like, this is high-tech Batman, but it's also a cartoony Batman. Like, just seeing, even then, like, oh, this is blending all the Batman mythos. So you navigate to the elevator shaft, and returning to the intensive treatment lobby, Batman finally catches up to Bowles, only to find his corpse scrapped. I guess he was scrapped out of this game. Strapped to a gurney, having outlived his usefulness, and no sign of Gordon. Then this is when Batman gets contacted by a new villain, the Riddler. He hacks in to your communication system to challenge the Dark Knight to solve his riddles and challenges and collect the Riddler trophies that were placed all over Arkham Island. So again, this is what I love about Arkham Origins, because once I finished Arkham Origins, I was immediately ready to play this game. And I remember what I liked about this game, and they do it more in Arkham City, and I know they do it in Arkham Knight, but this is the beginning of the Riddlers and the Riddler's riddles, and the trophies and things like that. And they're not hard to get in this one. There's still a lot, but back to what I was saying with Arkham Origins, and I'll say it with all these other games, I never was that invested in getting the Riddler trophies and really closing that loop as a story. I just wasn't. We'll see how it goes with the Arkham City side mission and the Arkham Knight side mission. Although the Arkham Knight side mission, I'm going to be honest, I'm probably not going to finish that whole arc because it's just so fucking tedious. It really is. So yeah, it sets up the idea of like, okay, so this is more of the exploration side of things, and we understand this is kind of the building blocks of like, hey, you're going to come back to these areas, you're going to have different times to return, because there's certain things that you can already see in your detective mode of like, okay, well that wall can break. Why can that wall break? Well, we'll get the explosive gel later and we'll figure that out. So anyway, that was a diversion, and then we get back to the main game. So Joker takes control of the Arkham intercom system and told his goons to destroy the Batmobile as he took over the west side of Arkham Island. So this means Batman has to contact Oracle, which is nice to see her appearance in this game. And again, doing this chronologically, it's fun to go from the idea of like, you do that one side mission for her taking down Penguin's arms caches, and then you start to build a bond there, and then it really gets touched on here, and that's kind of fun. So Batman tells Oracle that to disable the car's defenses in case Gordon is with the thugs that are attacking the car. So the wrecking crew didn't have Gordon, but Batman found the commissioner's pipe after he finds a group of guys, sets up a combat sequence, you beat up a bunch of thugs, and you recover the Batmobile. And no Gordon, but you find traces of his pipe. So now we're going to use the detective mode again and track the pipe, where Batman's like, oh, that's so smart of Jim. He left me clues. He knew I could trace him. And it was a birthday gift from Barbara, so he knows how specific that is. And it also has a trail of wild country tobacco. Batman was able to isolate the tobacco trail with his detective mode, a sign that Gordon left it to say, hey, Batman, I'm still alive, buddy. Come get me. And I always think it's a cool little detail that shows the relationship of Gordon and Batman and how much they trust each other. With, again, if you do this in chronological order, it's quite a different jump off. And that it gets set up in Origins by doing the Blackgate, getting the Blackgate prisoners back and doing all that for him. And it gets built there, which is really cool. So Batman enters the medical facility where Harley is with Gordon. Batman can't breach Gordon because the doors are electrified, making Batman find an alternative route. Batman is directed to find a way up on the roof. Batman follows the ventilation system to the sanatorium where the first doctors are located. It's basically a Predator mission designed to use the explosive gel. So you get the explosive gel when you beat up the thugs. You open up the trunk, you get the explosive gel, and then that lets you kind of, like I said, use it in this way. And I also like how this Predator mission, we've already done a stealth mission before, but this is a guided one of being like, use your explosive gel, use the environment to your advantage, and you're seeing that, again, the seeds planted here, and then really get elaborated on in the next 2 games. Excuse me, I bumped the mic. In the next 2 games, and setting up all the different cool things you can do, where it's not just sit on a gargoyle, inverted takedowns, drop down attacks, silent, takedowns and things. You can do those things, but the game is also saying, hey, there's more. And whenever a game offers variety to its gameplay, that's awesome. I always love it when a game says there's more than one way to take down this task. Now, it's still a stealth mission, but there's a different way to do it. You can't just go in fighting them because they have guns and it's stupid. So to actually have stealth but have all these different ways of approaching it is cool. So there you go. I like this game. I don't know if you know this. So after rescuing Dr. Cassidy, she tells Batman that there are 3 other doctors that are being held hostage. Goodness gracious. Dr. Kellerman, Dr. Shen, and Dr. Penelope Young. Batman then heads through the patient observation where Aaron Cash and Dr. Kellerman are located. They're trapped in a room filled with Joker gas. Batman flings his Batarang around a few times and gets rid of the gas. It's a puzzle where you have to just land on certain parts, hit the button with your Batarang, and again, this is the game showing you how to use the Batarang to hit buttons and open things. And then Batman heads to the surgery room to rescue Dr. Chen after a quick conversation with Cash, and he's like, here's where the other doctors are. Thanks, Batman. You're fucking G. You saved us from the gas. You're my man. Batman heads to the surgery room to rescue Dr. Chen. She's surrounded by thugs. Batman slaps some explosive gel on each of the wall and detonates them to knock out the thugs. And this is the game saying, like, okay, so you have essentially three uses. So you can spray in multiple areas before you detonate. When you detonate, it's all going to detonate them at once. And again, gives you another layer of variety to the gameplay. And like, okay, this is how you can approach a situation, which very much feels like the character of Batman. And that's what I love about Rocksteady's commitment to these games. 100% it is about, how do we make this feel like Batman? How is this the Batman story everybody wants to play? And how can we build upon those ideas? And it always shines through, I think, in this. And I'm seeing it a lot in City too, but man, does it really shine through in this game. And I think it is because of the intimacy of just being on this island and feeling like this is Batman, the longest night of Batman's life, which we'll come to find out is time moves slower in Gotham in the other 2 games. All right. So after rescuing Dr. Chen, Batman heads to Dr. Young. She's located in the sanatorium, and once reaching Dr. Young, she insists that she needs her notes. So she and Cash head to Arkham Mansion while Batman heads to the morgue looking for Gordon. Upon entering the lower level, Batman catches a glimpse of the Scarecrow, and soon Batman is affected by the fear gas, and this causes Batman to hallucinate. So this is the first of 3 of the Scarecrow encounters. And this is probably the most memorable sequences of the game. I definitely think it's probably the most talked about sequences of the game. Even, 13 years later when we talk about this game, it's still brought up about how great those were. And I'm here to tell you that I love the Joker sequences. The Scarecrow encounters, because I do think it sums up really the player and what they're feeling being in this environment, because Rocksteady did such a good job of building this gothic aesthetic and then this gothic vibe. And make no mistake, I feel like this first game, more than the other 2, this is a horror game. This is straight up a Castlevania, Metroidvania, I guess is the proper term, because we got to smash those 2 words together. Metroidvania style horror game that just happens to have Batman and his rogues gallery in it. And you really get that feeling with this first Scarecrow encounter, because you see a glimpse of him, and then the next thing you see is Gordon's dead body in an empty hallway. So you're trying to work to this morgue. And again, if you're... Now, obviously, I don't have this aspect because this is Arkham Revisited. I've played this game before. But if I were playing this the first time, I'd be like, what the fuck? Why is Gordon just dead? Now, if you're a Batman fan and, you know, you haven't played this game before, you know that it's just a part of the plan. It's the fear toxin, because why else would they show Scarecrow and then have this Gordon's dead body? Because as a Batman fan, you'd be like, there's no way they would just unceremoniously just kill Gordon after I spent so long tracking this guy. Or maybe they could, you don't know. But that's the fun of the Scarecrow encounter. So this would lead to him finding the dead body of Gordon, and then distraught, he finally goes to the morgue. And this is where the game really, really shines. Is you go to the morgue, you walk in, and it's the reanimated corpses of your parents. Now, the first time you walk into the morgue, it's just these moving bodies in a body bag, which enough is a scary image. And then you turn around, you walk back out, and then you walk back in. It's a weird thing where you walk out where you think would be the hallway, but instead of going back out into the hallway, you just walk into the morgue again, and you see the bodies moving. Or no, it's... wait, let me get my thoughts. Yeah, so the first time there's nothing there, and then the second time you walk in, and then that's when you see the bodies moving in the body bags, and then when you unzip them, it is Thomas Wayne saying, like, this is your fault, Bruce. This is your fault while you're dead. Then you open up the other body bag. Of course, it's Martha Wayne. She's, Martha! God, I fucking hate that so much because that is her name. But he sees Martha Wayne, and she says the same thing. Like, and it's that their voices are modulated, so when they're talking, it's like that weird, like, echoey sound, and it's that like deadly sound. And it's just off. It's not them. You know when you're in the hallucination now, but it's so creepy. It's so weird, and it again. You know, I talked about when I booted up that lightning bolt of nostalgia. Comes right back here, especially in this sequence, because I remember playing this the first time late at night in my room by myself, just being like, what the fuck is going on? What is this game? Being like, holy shit, they're going there. They're going for it, which is not what I expected when playing this game. I knew that it was going to be a little bit darker. It was going to have a little bit more elements of the darker aspects to the Batman mythos, but I didn't expect them to have my dead fucking parents talking to me. So I love it so much. And again, that is when people talk about this game, they'll always talk about this, and with good reason, because it's one of the best things about this game. What I remember so vividly about this game was just those encounters. So this, of course, would lead to your first Scarecrow level, and this whole point is for Batman to dodge the Scarecrow's gaze and then hit him with a floodlight. That is symbolic of Batman overcoming his fear and beating the toxin. That honestly, that is pretty. The actual levels themselves are unmemorable. I don't want to say unmemorable. The actual playing levels of the Scarecrow encounters leave a lot to be desired. It's the same thing all three times, and it's a very basic puzzle. It's just run. Wait for his gaze to pass over you, run to the other part of cover, use your bat claw to pull something down and make more cover, whatever the case may be. They're pretty bland, easy to do. Once you figure out the rhythm, you can beat them. I think, honestly, the Scarecrow encounters are all about the narrative aspect and the mindfuckery of it. That makes it more fun than the actual gameplay of it. And that's just the truth. That's just the truth. And I don't hate it. I love that dude, this game, dude, listen. This game would not nearly be as fun if they don't exist to break up the monotony of gameplay. It's just the actual gameplay of it itself is kind of just like, all right, you got through the cool story beat. Now you got to do this part, and then you're done. You're done. So, after defeating that first encounter, Batman leaves the morgue and finds Scarecrow's gas had him believe something that wasn't real, finding a dead security guard when he had found Gordon's corpse earlier. So now you're like, oh yeah, of course. they wouldn't unceremoniously kill Gordon like that. Batman realizes that Gordon is still alive and follows a trail left for him by the Joker to the scene of a Predator level. Harley is guarding Gordon, and Joker challenges Batman to make it undetected past 4 of his henchmen patrolling the room. If he is spotted, Harley will execute Gordon instantly, and once Batman succeeds, the Joker directs his attention to a surprise left for him in a previously locked chamber in the middle of the room. So this one actually took me a bit because, again, I'm terrible at stealth, but the whole point of this is to show you that you can clear out a whole room without being detected if you can figure out the layout of the level. You can really mess them up and do it, and if you do it in the correct way, it'd be real easy to set up and do all these silent takedowns. I gotta say though, this is the same for it, not just the Arkham games, but all games that have stealth. It makes me laugh when I'm clearly right behind someone, and I feel like most people could tell that a 6'4" or whatever man with pointy bat ears is standing behind them. But regardless, it is what it is. It does take me a little while, but once you enter the secret room, that's when Bane enters the game. That's right, he's hooked up to a device that has drained his venom, and it turns out that Bane was a test subject for Titan, an amped-up version of Venom. So, in the sake of this being a video game and we need boss fights, the Joker triggers the pump, replacing Bane's venom with Titan, which enables him to break free and attack Batman, hurling him through a wall and into the medical facility's boiler room, and this sets up a boss fight with Bane. Now remember how earlier I told you the Titan thug fights are all the same? Well, that's what this is. This is a glorified Titan fight with some henchmen sprinkled in. So yeah, it's the same shit. Bane charges at Batman, you quick throw a batarang, hit him when he's dazed, and then that leads to a cutscene. So you hit him there, just like every other Titan thug fight, you beat him down for a certain amount of time, drops his health, rinse, cycle, repeat. And in this case, instead of it being a fight, in that it leads to a cutscene. So eventually, in the cutscene, Batman flees the boiler room by means of his grappling gun for the season because Bane makes the boiler room collapse when he keeps running into it when you're fighting him. It creates weakness in the foundation, makes everything collapse, and then it falls on top of Bane, burying him in the rubble, which you would think would be the end of Bane. But, as we've learned in Arkham Origins, you can't fucking stop Bane. I swear to God. When he is determined, he will get to the Batman. And so he jumps out, gets to the Batman, grabs him, and then that sets up this really cool sequence. So it's, again, nostalgia. I'll never forget this moment because Bane grabs Batman. It says, "I will break you," like he does in the comics. And then Batman has one of the better lines because I always remember this.
I will break you, Batman! Then the Bruja! No, Bane. This time I break you.
I don't know about you, but there's just something really cool about Batman saying, "No, Bane, this time I break you," and just fucking drives the Batmobile through him. Yeah, so Batmobile rams Bane into the Gotham Bay, and Batman tells Gordon to leave the island. Batman then reveals he has a totally normal backup Batman cave in Arkham. Just saying, people already think you're weird, Batman, but then you have this little backup Bat cave here. It's a little off. But I do like it because it is the game setting up the Bat computer and using the Bat cave, even though you can't use the Bat cave yet because, we're not there. We're just not there. Even though in Origins, narratively, it is cool to see the Batcave and then see how reliant you can be on that Batcave when you come back for like the Gru grenade, or you come back to, use the Bat computer. You come back to save Alfred. Things like that. To see that taken away from you in this game is really cool narratively, and I like it a lot. So Batman finds out about Titan and Dr. Young's involvement. She found out that Joker is the benefactor and stopped the research. So she was doing these experiments on Bane, unfortunately, about what Titan can do to the body and like how it can transform you and make you stronger, whatever. But when she finds out Joker does it, she's like, "Oh, I'm out. Fuck that. I don't want to help that lunatic." So then we find out Joker has staged an entire crime wave of his own to capture and take over Arkham in order to take control of the Titan himself. So he set up all of because he mentions it at the beginning of the game about all of the Joker thugs that got moved from Blackgate to Arkham Asylum because of a fire. Well, we find out that Joker's thugs all set that up, got them into Arkham Asylum, because of course they did. It's the fucking Joker. You should know this by now, Gotham. But anyway, all the Joker's thugs end up in Arkham because of that. So then that leads, of course, to Joker orchestrating all of those guys getting involved so he can try and get the formula that Dr. Young has for the Titan thugs, and also trap Batman at the same time. Because if he has this Titan himself, he would have an army of 1,000 Banes. So then Batman heads to the Arkham Mansion to meet up with Cash and Dr. Young, and this sends Batman on the trail of Dr. Young's research that has the Titan formula. And once he finds it, he destroys it, which was a bitch. Let me tell you, this just like the first time, it took me so long to find this because, look, while it's a smaller map than Arkham City or Arkham Knight or even Arkham Origins, Arkham Asylum's map can be confusing because there's so many different levels and layers to each part of the island, each specific area you go into. In building, that it was easy for me to get lost, I'll be honest. So once Batman gets back to Arkham Mansion, Dr. Young is being held hostage by Zsasz for some reason, because Batman didn't think to cuff Zsasz or have the guards cuff Victor Zsasz earlier. Why the hell is he in here? Either way, Batman throws a batarang to take him out and rescues Dr. Young. Dr. Young then tells Batman about a chemical production facility that was hidden in the Asylum's botanical gardens, which Joker would be sure to use to produce the Titan when she was forced to surrender the formula. She explained that Batman would need Warden Sharp's security codes to access it. So then that sets us down the trail of going back after Harley Quinn and Warren Sharp so we can get through the rest of the island and get to the botanical gardens, which, hey, botanical gardens, plants, could that mean Poison Ivy's involved? Well, you know she is, so anyway. Dr. Young then dies of an explosive that goes off that was a booby trap on the safe that she was trying to use to access. And then Batman comes to after the explosion because this takes him out, but then it kills her. So then he goes over, and that's sad, but it's also kind of funny because the game induces this whole new character and says, yeah, she was really just a plot point. Boom, she's dead. I'm totally fine with it. Batman makes his way to also Harley is making fun of Batman. She smacks around the Warden, which of course leaves his blood. So, bloop, detective mode, let's find his blood trails. So Batman makes his way to the Warden in the penitentiary wing by following his blood trails in detective mode. And once he finds the Warden, he takes out his new gadget, the cryptographic sequencer, and Batman uses this to disable electrified doors all over Gotham. So now he has the codes that Warden gave him, so he can open up doors. Which, in this game, this is what's so interesting about doing Origins in 2013 as a prequel. So what he can do in Arkham Origins with the cryptographic sequencers, he can actually create the passwords on the screen. They didn't have that in mind, I think, in Arkham Asylum, because you do it in Arkham City and in Arkham Knight. I don't think that was the plan in Arkham Asylum, and I honestly think it was just going to be something where, it's one code. Warden Sharp's an easy guy. It's just one code, and we're just going to use this to open everything. But I got to say, the cryptographic scanner is one of my favorite Batman gadgets because this is just my lizard brain. And I remember playing this, again, when I was younger, the first time I played it. But being that you use the sticks to move your fingers to, get the frequency right on the cryptographic sequencer, as a kid, that was just really nerdy to me. Look, my fingers are moving just like Batman's on the screen with my fingers on the thumbs. I'm so cool. I love Batman. I'm a nerd. God. I'm losing my mind here, folks. And I haven't even got to the really juicy parts. So we do that. We get that open. Also, there's a really cool Easter egg. If you look in the cells, you see Warden Sharp again. And if you go into detective mode, you'll notice, because when you do the detective mode in general, you'll see the heartbeat, but you also see the skeleton of the person. It's an X-ray vision. There's no bones, because that isn't Warden Sharp. That is Clayface. So yeah, Clayface doesn't really show up until the second game, but hey, look at that. He's introduced, the third game chronologically, but it is nice to see him there. So now this sets up Batman taking down Harley. Batman finds her in extreme incarceration. Extreme incarceration. He fights a few henchmen with electrified floors and finally gets to Harley. He takes her down and then locks her up. Now, this was a fun fight because, yeah, it is multiple waves of thugs, but you have to map out how you're going to fight them. You're going to have to fight them and then move kind of from floor to floor because there's 3 different sets of floors and they're all electrified. It's a cool little fight. So there's some shenanigans with Joker perfecting the Titan formula, forcing Batman to do another Titan thug fight. And, of course, it's the same because you defeat Harley, you get back to Joker on his trail, and Joker says, "Ha, just kidding, you're not going to catch me. Here's 2 Titan thugs you got to fight for some goddamn reason." And it's the same thing, as I said all game. Wait for them to run at you, throw the batarang, dodge them, wait for the other guy to run at you, dodge him, throw the batarang. But this is where we incorporate that you can daze them, and then when they're dazed, you can jump on their back and ride them and hit the strike button to, like, slap at people, or you can also do, like, a ground pound move and whatever. So you fight them, defeat them, and then Batman finds out that Ivy's plants can be used as an antidote. So Batman then saw a surreal bit of deja vu from earlier that night, but it was himself in Joker's place. That's right, motherfuckers, we got another Scarecrow encounter, and this one is the most infamous one because when you're first playing this game, which, by the way, if you have not played this game and you're listening to this, I've spoiled so much. Why the hell are you doing it? Secondly, don't get mad at me. It's all a 13-year-old game. But this this Scarecrow encounter is so cool because you're going to where you need to go, and then the game glitches out on you. It crashes. The game literally crashes. It does what you would expect. There's a little error. Crashes. And I'm like, what the fuck? Everybody's thinking that when they play. I was like, I know there's no scratches on the disc. I just bought this game. What the fuck? That whole thing. So yeah, this is the same shot from the first game, beginning of the game, but it's different. So instead of Joker being in the backseat, it's Batman. Instead of Batman driving, it's Joker driving, which they literally use the same animations. They just flip the assets. Goodness, I couldn't think of the word. So Batman then, he has this thing. He's in Joker's place at the mercy of Blackgate thugs, and after being shot by the Joker, Batman realizes that he was under the effects of the fear toxin once again. So then that makes him fight off the effects, and he grabs Crane by the hood. But however, Crane jabs him with the syringes, causing him to fall into another hallucination. Actually, you know what I forgot to mention? Before this, when you're on your way back to Dr. Young after you've gotten the formula and you've destroyed it, you do open the doorway and you head back towards Arkham Mansion. But if you pay attention to the top of the screen, it changes to the Wayne Manor. And I was like, wait a minute, what the hell? When I first played it, I was like, what the fuck? And then you start walking down the hall like normal, but then the hall starts to rain. And then you start to get a little nervous as you're walking back. And then you realize, oh shit, I'm in another Scarecrow encounter, because as you're walking, the lightning flashes and you go from Batman to young Bruce Wayne. And then you see your parents then you start to realize, oh shit, I'm walking in the alleyway because there's trash cans. There's the concrete. So you're like, oh shit, I'm in Crime Alley. I'm going back to the origin. Of course, that's what happens. You are young Bruce Wayne. Your parents' bodies are laying there, and you kneel over and cry. And then the camera kind of pulls up a little bit, and then you see the bat symbol around your parents' corpses, and you, as little Bruce Wayne, crying over them. And then a lightning flashes, and it brings you back to Batman. He's keeled over, dealing with that. And again, much like in Origins, we have a little throwback to his parents being dead and just how that's affected him. We're seeing that here firsthand. And then, of course, that sets up another Joker, or another goodness, I keep doing that. Another Scarecrow fight that we all know how those work. And then that brings us back to Dr. Young. So now we're in our third and final stretch, because we're on the hunt to get these the anecdote from Ivy. And Ivy has told us at this point that she has these special plants that will combat the Titans effects, but to get it, you'd have to go down the sewers, and that's where Killer Croc is. And as you're on your way to Killer Croc, that's where the game crashes, and we have our third Scarecrow encounter. And as I mentioned, Batman grabs Kane by the throat and tries to fight him off, and Dr. Crane's like, what the fuck? You should be out of this, man. So then he hits him again with this syringe full of fear toxin, and he knocks him back into that for a minute, and then he says, hey, I'm going to go poison the water supply with my fear toxin because I'm a little dick. I'm Scarecrow. So, of course, you're already on your way to see Croc. So that's where Batman goes. He's going to go stop Scarecrow from putting the fear toxin in the water. But then kaboom! Here comes Killer Croc, baby. That's right. Killer Croc emerges from the sewers and he takes out Crane. Or so we think, because we know Scarecrow shows up in Arkham Knight. But anyway, he takes out Scarecrow. And so that leads to Batman tossing a batarang at Killer Croc's shock collar. And this saves Crane for a minute before he was dragged to the sewer by Croc. So then Batman has to navigate the sewers without alerting Croc. And again, I like it because it isn't your usual boss fight sequence, because the whole crux of it is Croc is in the sewer and you have to dodge him, and by doing that you have to move quietly. You can't run. It kind of takes away you trying to speed past this level. And the problem with that is no matter how slow you're going, eventually it will alert Croc. So then he gets up to fight you, and then what you have to do is, just like in the thug fights with like the Titan thugs, you just got to throw a batarang to hit his shock collar whenever he emerges and tries to hunt you down. Again, it's very gimmicky, and that's, again, one of the cons I have against this game is sometimes they introduce a new element which is fun at first, but then it gets to be repetitive and be kind of gimmicky, and you kind of just, you go with what you want. And again, this is their first outing. This is their first game, and to put this level of fights and different encounters with Batman villains is awesome. I just wish sometimes they would kind of break it up a little bit with the monotony. But anyway, eventually Batman gets all the spores for the antidote that Harvey told him about that, and then after he defeats Croc, he heads for Ivy, because, again, I forgot to mention this, on your way to the Warden, you meet Poison Ivy. Eventually, Harley lets her out because Harley's like, fuck it, let's have fun. Let's have all the villains out here fucking with Batman. And then periodically, we find out that Joker was injecting her with Titan, which was causing her plants all over, not only botanical gardens, but all over the whole entire island to mutate and get bigger and stronger. So you're dealing with them, you're dealing with escaped crazy thugs, which I gotta be honest, releasing the crazy people was a little bit, I don't want to sound like PC or anything, but it does kind of sound like a weird message, being like, okay, so all these mental health patients in Arkham, they're either supervillains or fucking nutty people that the minute they see another human, they attack them. I don't know, it just seemed weird. And now I'm digressing. But anyway, throughout the game, she's taking Titan, and she's getting pissed. And she's being like, hey, you're hurting my plants. Stop hurting my plants. Leave me alone. I'm all about my fucking plants. Even Joker said it best. He's like, does she ever shut up about the plants? So anyway, Batman makes his way for Ivy. So then Batman head back to the Botanical Gardens to fight Poison Ivy once and for all. And then Batman has managed to defeat Ivy in the gardens by using an explosive gel to blow Ivy's protective shell that caused her plant to go out of control. This is another fight. I don't want to say it's gimmicky. There's more elements to it. It's a fun boss fight. I remember my first playthrough of this game. That was probably my hardest boss fight, which is kind of crazy to think about. But dodging, because what you had to do to fight her, she's in this center in this plant in the protective shell, and like I said, you have to use the explosive gel to blow that up and get her out of it. But to do that, you have to thread a wave of, you've got to dodge these plants shooting these like little lethal orbs at you, and while you're doing that, there's also, she brings in like hypnotized Arkham guards and random thugs that you have to fight, and while she does that, she hits the ground and like sends like a ranged effect of like vines growing in the ground, and if the vines grab you, you have to break free from them, and there's a whole interesting sequence with that. I thought it was a fun boss fight. I would say it's one of the more memorable and fun boss fights. Just because the only thing, again, because it doesn't rely on a gimmick as much as the other encounters do. Where even Scarecrow is a gimmick. It's a little gimmicky, but regardless, that was a fun fight. So you defeat her, and then with all the enemies on Joker's party list defeated, Joker has his men set off fireworks and directs Batman to as the guest of honor to the party at the visitor center by the cell blocks. So that's what's great too, because you can get an achievement for this, because it is kind of weird. There's these big fireworks going off to this location you go to. You show up, and it's a room full of thugs. And rather than initiate combat with you, they applaud you because it's your party you're going to. Which, by the way, it's funny because on the way in, it's like, you're not on the list. It's like, bitch, I'm on the list. I'm Batman. So you beat the shit out of them. You get into there. And then if you want, you can fight the whole room full of henchmen, and that gives you the trophy party pooper. Just heads up. So that does that. So we get into the final part of this game. So that's another thing too. I totally forgot about this. Is the game gets so much bigger in the other 3 games that I totally forgot how narratively focused this is. This game is. I mean, honestly, you could probably knock this game out in 8 to 10 hours if you really focused and you're like in that. And I say the 10 hours being generous of like you're actually going to get the Riddler trophies. You're actually solving riddles, doing those. Honestly, if you go straight forward with this, you could probably beat the game in about 8 hours. I'd say about 8 hours, which is fine. I'm actually for that. As someone who is an expecting father, is going to have a very busy schedule, I am all about games that are like, you know what, we're going to sit down, we're going to tell our story in 8 to 10 hours. I respect it, and that's what I love about this game. But anyway, rather than fight you, Joker has a bunch of henchmen come in, so you have a big fight that you take out a bunch of them, and then a couple after you do the first wave of thugs, and then a couple of Titan thugs show up, and then after you beat them, this will set up the final boss fight. There's a whole cutscene where Joker was gonna shoot Gordon and make him into a crazed Titan character, but Batman jumps in the way because we find out that Gordon didn't make it off the island. He was got again by the Joker, and then Gordon almost gets shot by the Titan stuff. Batman jumps in his way. Joker loses his shit because he's like, oh yeah, that means Batman's gonna turn. But Batman fights off turning into the Titan character, and Joker's like, what the hell? And then Joker shoots himself. Or Batman gives himself the antidote so he won't turn. Joker's like, what the fuck? You don't even... Because again, we find out that when Batman makes the... I'm all over the place almost. So we find out when Batman makes the antidote, he only has enough for one at the time, and the rest of it is processing so he can mass produce it. So that's how he's going to turn all the other Titan characters back to normal, as he's producing it. But he only has the one for right now. So he wastes the one antidote on himself. Joker laughs at that, thinks that's what a bitch. Can't even tighten up to fight me. Won't even roid up to fight me. So then he puts the gun under his chin like he's going to shoot himself in the head. And he shoots himself and turns himself into Titan Joker. And that sets up the worst fucking boss fight in the history of the Arkham games. And it's so weird. Going from Arkham Origins, that excelled at doing boss fights, that understood how to do boss fights. Like, that Deathstroke fight is fucking phenomenal and like such a cool boss fight. And then to go to this game, which, I don't know, Rocksteady didn't really focus on boss fights with these Batman games. I mean, there are boss fights, and there's some really good ones. But, like I said, a lot of the fights are a little bit more gimmicky in this first game. This boss fight especially. And I think this is where a lot of... Because nobody likes this final boss fight. Nobody fucking likes this boss fight because it sucks, because it is boring. It is literally... The whole build-up is Joker being roided out on Titan, which his character design is fucking rad. Like, it's grotesque. Like, the Titan affects him so much that his bones are poking through his body. And his skin is getting stretched so hard that bones are poking out. Like, it's fucked up. And the fight sucks, because all you do is fight thugs, take them all out, then use your ultra bat claw that you have that has 3 prongs on it, because then after you fight them, he turns around to like wave at the news chopper and show off. You pull him off the side, knock him down. His fingernails get stuck in the ground. You punch him like 3 or 4 times, takes down his health. Do that 2 more times, that defeats him. It fucking sucks. And honestly, I think it is not only because it just sucks because it's so anticlimactic and it's not even a fight. It's not even a final boss fight at all. It's also, like I said, it's you spend 8 hours of doing gimmicky boss fights, and then you get to this last one, and it is nothing but a gimmick, and you're like, what the fuck are we doing here? But we all know that Rocksteady gets it, like figures out how to do like. First thing that comes to my mind, and if you want to, and that's what I love about doing this as a series and playing all 4 games and watching this. And now I understand Origins comes out much later and has the foundation laid by those other 2 games to really help it excel at what it does. But to see that weird like that down narratively, if you want to look at it narratively, to see that weird downstep or backpedal, I should say, from awesome boss fights in Origins to this in Asylum. Now, maybe narratively you could explain that away, being like, well, Batman has fought Joker more than this one time. He's been Batman for another 8 or so years after Origins, so maybe he develops a different kind of fighting style. I don't know. But the point is, this fucking sucks, and Rocksteady figures it out in the other games. They get better in the other games. Now, we'll have a discussion about Arkham Knight's boss fight select thereof later on when we get to that one. But anyway, so Batman sprays explosive gel on his glove. Batman says he'd never let Joker win and always be prepared for his tactics. And Joker prepares to kill Batman. His relentless nemesis charges at him, but then the gel, of course, knocks Joker's teeth out and knocks his ass down, and that ends the game. Joker gets carried away by the cops. And then we get a report through the police scanner that Two-Face is robbing a bank, and Batman says, see you later, Jim. Ka-ting! Shoots his bat claw up to the Batwing and flies off, and that ends the game. Also, you talk about nostalgia. I'll never forget the sounds of and it's actually in the theme of this. I'll never forget this sound effect, and this will always stick out of me, and I'll never not think about this. That sound effect is just burned into my brain. That and the grapple hook. I'll always hear that, the sound that makes. So that and the Arkham chime will always, forever be burned into my brain. So let's talk about the pros and cons of Arkham Asylum. So the pros, there's no surprise that this game's combat has revolutionized gaming. It still fucking hums like a cat, or purrs like a cat is what I should say, when you play this game. It is still amazing to think that 13 years later, they still really just took a simple system and then just continued to add on it. I mean, when you get to City and Night and Origins even, the level of strategy and just how much that game evolves combat-wise is insane. And it's nice to see it start here, and you're like, man, they built such a solid foundation that I was going to be just 100% in the tank for this game when it came out. Another pro, it stays true to the Batman mythos while also carving out a new era. They really make their own story and really give that original vibe to this series, and of course it starts here. And again, like I said earlier, really, really drove home that, like, hey, we have to stick to these core tentpoles of Batman, and I think they exceeded very well. The voice acting is fantastic. It's a great blend of gritty Batman, but also a little Batman the Animated Series. Of course, that happens with Tara Strong and Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy coming back. But I think it's a brilliant approach of combining, again, all the different things that make Batman, but also understanding the age of the people playing this, that maybe they did grow up with that classic cartoon, and I think it's a nice callback to those people as well. Another pro, plenty of variety for the Predator missions, something I didn't remember. There's a lot of different challenges to the Predator missions that I didn't really remember that much when I first played through them. And lastly, it nails the atmosphere, and the Scarecrow story beats are just phenomenal. I loved everything about being in Arkham Asylum. I really did believe it was this really scary fucking place, and I think it adds to like that Grant Morrison. It's a real a scary place on real Earth or whatever the name of it was, but it nails that. And of course, while the gameplay aspects of the Scarecrow encounters are kind of whatever, the story beats are just unbelievable, and it makes it the horror game that it is. And it really, I don't think the game is, I think the game is still great without it, but I definitely think it does make the game more memorable. And I don't know if we have Arkham City if it wasn't for those kind of levels in Arkham Asylum. Now let's get to the things I didn't like. The lack of boss fights, or I should say the overuse of the same gimmick for certain fights, i.e. the Titan Thugs and the Bane encounter. We all know about that. The Scarecrow encounters are bland outside of the story beats. I will admit that, and I think I said that earlier. It's true. It's basic. It's run to the cover where he can't see you. Wait, get to the bat signal, hit him with the bat signal, and win. I mean, they try and mix it up with the skeletons that you're fighting, but it's bleh. And then, of course, the Joker fight was just inexcusable. It really is. It is so baffling that a game that had such build-up and such great momentum really fucking stumbles at the finish line or fumbles the ball, whatever metaphor you want to use. It ends with a whimper instead of a bang, and I think that is a huge detriment to the rest of the game. Am I saying this makes the rest of the game bad? No, absolutely not. I'm not going to discount the last 7 or 8 hours of the game that I just played, but I'm going to say that I wish it would have been better. It was such a build-up to finally, after everything he puts you through on that night, it's that build-up to finally get to beat the shit out of him, and the best you got is me just pulling him off the side of a fucking building and then slapping him around a little bit. That's it. So does it hold up? That's the main question for this revisited series. Does this game hold up? Absolutely, it still holds up. It's still a blast to revisit Arkham. This game is 13 years old, and I still want to come back and do it and play it, because what I'm learning after Origins and this, these games are timeless. Now, you could argue that the graphics maybe not will hold up as well as other games, or, whatever. I understand. Video games are constantly evolving and changing. But this has such a strong foundation and has such a strong sense of what it is. When you think of it, when you think of Batman, Arkham, you understand it's its own period of time. They never say what year it is. They never set up anything other than that, other than this is just what this story is. This is Rocksteady's version of Batman. That is their story, and it does, in a weird way, make the games timeless. I feel like anybody could pick this up and understand. It doesn't matter what year it is or what you're trying to understand with, is it tied to anything, any other license? No, it's its own game, it's its own world, and it's crazy to think that 13 years later, I'm still like, God, this game is still fucking polished, and it just shows you when a game is really that good. It'll shine through. And I've beaten this game 3 times now and still enjoy all of it, even despite the gimmicky fights and the lackluster Joker fight at the end. I still fucking love Arkham Asylum, and it's fantastic. Now, I will give a definitive ranking of all 4 games when I'm finished, so I don't want to say anything about that of where I place it versus Arkham Origins after just playing the 2, and I just started dipping my toe in Arkham City. But man, it is a trip, and I really, really did love revisiting Arkham. I just said the title. No, I this was, again, something that I didn't plan on doing, and it's been a couple weeks, and I said that the release schedule is kind of just going to be on me trying to beat the game, and while I am trying to get these games finished at a decent pace, I am in no rush to finish Arkham City. I'm just really enjoying being in that world. I finished Arkham Asylum so quickly after Origins because I totally forgot how smaller scale Arkham Asylum is compared to the other games. But yeah, it's a blast. It's still a game that I love playing, and I recommend any Batman fan out there that truly loves the character. They've already played these games. But it is amazing to just... And I'm also learning that there is a lot to say about going back and playing these games and playing a single-player, narratively focused game that is very much all about you being the Batman and experiencing that story. I don't know. I'm in. I hate to get on this whole diatribe at the end of this, but as an adult with a full-time job and about to have a kid on the way, I can understand the appeal of wanting to play multiplayer games. I still do that. I love that I can just jump on Halo for an hour or so, play a couple rounds of a game, and be done with it and be fine. But there is something to say about just sitting down and really locking in for a couple hours and just playing a video game. And I think that really shines through in these Batman Arkham games, especially Arkham Asylum. So, have you sat through this and thought, I'm a madman, and said, no, I'm a fucking idiot? Well, let me know. Rate this, listen to it, share with your friends, tell everybody about it. Arkham Revisited, Part 2 in the books. Arkham Asylum, the one that started it all. And then next episode, I'm not going to promise the release date because I don't know when I'll finish it, but the next episode will be Batman Arkham City, the near perfect sequel. Same bat time, same bat channel here on Off Panel Off Topic. This has been Jake Williams, and this has been Arkham Revisited.